Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty and fashion trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered.
Hey there, beautiful, and welcome to the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast. I am your host, Becky, back again, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about hair. And more specifically, I wanted to talk about fun-colored hair. By fun-colored hair, all hair colors are fun. But when I say fun-colored hair, what I'm referring to is blues, purples, greens, oranges, reds, periwinkles, pastels, any unnatural color that you can possibly think of. Now, I, for one, have dabbled in the fun hair spectrum. Unfortunately, I'm not at a position in life where I can have fun-colored hair at the moment. I actually had fried my hair a little bit, so I gave it a nice long break, and am unfortunately in a job currently where I can't have fun-colored hair, which is okay. I get by. Like I said in my last episode, I play with my makeup. Maybe I get a tattoo. Things that can, make me happy without breaking the business rules. So in the past, I have had red hair, purple hair, green hair, blue hair, and brown hair, which is my natural. And I did at first start by doing it myself. This included a box of red splat hair dye, as well as the bleach that came with the hair dye. The first fun colored hairstyle I did was in college. I did the top half red and I left the bottom half natural, so it had a kind of red and black thing going, which was super fun, and it was the first time that I'd experimented with my hair. And I will also say, the great thing about hair is that it grows back, or you can re-dye it, or there's just so many possibilities that you can do with hair. So when I first started, kind of experimenting with my hair, I did do it myself. And this meant, bleaching it myself, dyeing it myself, making a mess of my bathroom. So here are some things to remember if you plan on doing this yourself. First of all, bleach is no joke. I mean, bleach can damage your hair to the point of no return, to the point where you have to rock a pixie cut because there's no other alternative. However, a lot of people do bleach their hair at home. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's not. So here are some things to keep in mind if you are considering taking this route. I would like to preface this section by saying I watched a lot of Brad Mondo on YouTube. He is a hairstylist on YouTube. He does a lot of hairdresser reacts to quote unquote bleach fails. And he's just a wealth of information in terms of if you're going to do this at home. Granted, he always suggests that you go to a hairstylist, which I would have to agree with. So depending on what kind of hair you have, will depend on what kind of developer you need, what kind of toner you need. You're going to want to go to your local beauty store, and pick up, I usually use a powder bleach as well as like a 30 or 40 developer. I have really dark hair, so I need something that lifts that. And I'll also say that if you're a blonde, you can skip this step. It's been a while since I've bleached my hair, I will say that. But you'll want to do, what I like to do is a powder bleach, 30 or 40 volume developer, and then when you mix it together, you want it to be a thick paste with no lumps. You want no lumps, because then the product isn't quite mixed in all the way. And I don't know the precise measurements, but you want to make sure that the consistency is almost like a mousse foam, I would say. When you pick it up with a brush, you'll want to make sure it shouldn't fall off of your brush. It should kind of stick there. And once everything is mixed together, you want to start on the ends of your hair rather than your roots. And the reason you want to do this, especially if you've never dyed your hair before, is because your roots, one, are close to your head, so the heat is going to make them lift faster. And two, also if you have product in your hair already, the ends are going to need a little bit more time to lift. So you want to start at your roots and then work your way up. Also, you want to make sure that you section your hair. Bleach is not shampoo. It's not something that will lather if you scrunch it into your hair. So you want to make sure that it's really saturated. And one of the ways that you can do this is by sectioning your hair into small sections. I find that most people will start in by the nape of their neck, in the under layers of their hair, and then work their way up. I have seen people who will, start at the top and then clip it up as they go. But you want to make sure that all of your hair has been saturated by bleach. This is going to take a lot of time. And just putting the bleach in alone is going to take a lot of time. So just be patient, put on an episode of something on Netflix or Amazon and watch a movie or listen to music. If you have a friend over, have them come in with you and just have a conversation. It's going to take a lot of time. And once the bleach is on your hair, I would leave it on for no longer than 30 minutes, and then check it. What I found works best is if you get some kind of clear shower cap, which will keep the heat in, which will also help the hair color lift out. So I would check it after 30 minutes, and if it's still, on the darker side, if you're still looking at like a caramel color, I would keep it in for just maybe 15 minutes longer and just keep checking it every 15 minutes until you reach like a brassy yellow, or when I did it, I had kind of a butter colored yellow. So you want to look for that shade, but you don't want to overdo it. So once you reach a lightness that will be best for you in whatever color you're doing, and if you're doing like a platinum blonde or a gray, you want to make sure you get it really light. The next thing I would suggest is using like a toner or a purple shampoo, depending on what stage your hair is at. And you also want to make sure that you're doing a deep condition after your bleach, because again, bleach is no joke. It takes a lot out of your hair, and you want to make sure that your hair is still really moisturized. After you've bleached your hair, it becomes really porous. So it's going to take as much of anything as possible. So once you've done all of those steps and your hair hasn't fallen out and you don't feel panicked, then you can go on to the fun part, which is color. And like bleach, color also doesn't saturate or suds up. It isn't something that you can just rub into your hair. So make sure that you're getting a lot of product, because you can always keep product. But if you run out and you're only halfway done your hair, it's going to be a mess. Personally, I've used a lot of hair color products. Some of my favorites are like Manic Panic, Arctic Fox, Lunar Tides. But find the color that you think is going to look best on you, or that you just really want to try. Make sure you're grabbing lots of product. That way you can store it, you can do touch-ups with it, and you don't have to keep running back and forth to the store or sending someone to go to the store because you're halfway done your hair and there's nothing else you can do. But then you want to kind of do the same process that you did with bleaching. You want to section your hair. You can kind of start with the roots. Those are going to be extra porous because they're, again, close to your head, so they're going to, suck in all of that product. And again, you want to leave it on for like 30, 40 minutes. So now you have successfully bleached and dyed your hair. The other thing that you want to do is when you're rinsing out your color, one, you want to be careful of where your hair is, because you will stain your tub without a doubt. I've stained my tub blue. I've stained my tub green. I've stained it red. There's just no avoiding it, basically. So the one thing you want to do is be really careful. And the second thing you want to do is use cold water. It's going to suck. I mean, there's just no way around it. It's going to suck. But using cold waters will help, like your pores, will help shrink the follicles in your hair so that is keeping the color in rather than washing it out, which is what warm water will do, because it's opening your follicles. And basically what you want to do is just, rinse your hair with cold water until the water runs clear. And it's going to be scary. I will warn you if you're doing this for the first time, because you're going to feel like all the color is coming out. It's not. And you don't even need to shampoo or condition it, because most unnatural hair dyes aren't really meant to stay in your hair. So you don't necessarily need to shampoo or condition once the product is in. You just need to make sure that it's rinsed out. And since you've already washed your hair after the bleach, you won't really need to do it again. And then once all these steps are done, you can style it any way you want. The one thing that I will say in terms of these kind of colors in your hair, you want to make sure that you're keeping your hot tools on a lower setting than you probably normally would, because again, that heat is going to open the follicles and it's going to dim the color of your bright, fun colored hair. And with that said, I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about going to your stylist. You've tried to do it yourself, maybe it didn't work, or you're scared to do it yourself, best to go to a stylist. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Becky, and we've talked a little bit about how to bleach and dye your hair at home, which I don't necessarily recommend doing. And now I wanted to talk to you about going to a stylist. In my experience, most stylists are super excited to do fun colored hair and strange colors and strange color combinations. So you don't have to worry about a stylist saying to you, no, I'm not going to do that. That's going to be terrible. I personally am lucky enough to have a hairstylist in my life. She's a mom of one of my friends. And when she saw that I was doing my hair myself, when I was in my blue hair phase, to be specific, she looked at me and she said, "Oh, wow, that looks really great. Did you get that done?" I said, "No, I did it in my sink." And she almost had a panic attack and said, "You need to come see me. Please don't do that again." And I was like, okay. And she's so sweet, and she is always up for a new hair adventure. And in my experience, what she does with me, that you can tell your stylist, and what she does with me, that you can maybe tell your stylist, maybe that's an option for you. As I said before, I have really dark brown hair. So what she does with me is she actually goes in and does like hundreds of really skinny, tiny little highlights, all over my head, and bleaches those. So that way you're not necessarily bleaching your whole head, and you're trying to, keep it as healthy as possible. So once all of those tiny highlights are complete, it's gonna look a little strange, especially if you have dark hair. But once all of that is done, then she goes just straight in with color. And what this does is the color picks up on all of those highlights, but your own hair is also kind of picking up the color as well, just not to the same extreme as the highlights. So what is gonna happen is, because there's so many highlights in the hair, it's all gonna kind of blend together and give it a little bit more dimension. And this for me has worked really well. I know a lot of other people who Sometimes this doesn't work for them, but it's worked for me. And the great thing about my hairstylist is that she encourages me to kind of retouch it on my own. Because I'm not putting bleach in my hair, I'm just adding more color to kind of touch up or revitalize the look. So bottom line is, my personal recommendation is to go to a hairstylist. They know what they're doing. If you're lucky to have a hairstylist like me, they're going to be more than happy to help you on this hair adventure. And the end product can be something that, they also enjoy because they're going to do something out of the ordinary. So one of the things that I will say about fun colored hair in general is it's not a short and sweet process. It's something that you really have to work for. And like I said in segment 1, if you're doing it yourself, it's going to take a long time. So make sure that you're prepared for that. And when you're going to a hairstylist, it's basically the same, except they're a little more exact and a little more precise. Because they're doing it with a technique that they've learned over time to make sure that you don't have, patchiness, spots, missing color. They're going to make sure that you're covered, basically. And, the thing that you also have to remember, that I see a lot of people kind of forgetting is that if you have dark hair like I do, and you're going into a hairdresser and saying, I want to be platinum blonde, or I want to be, a light gray by tomorrow, can you do that? Most hairdressers are going to say no, but don't have a hissy fit about it, okay? And there's a reason for this. And the reason is, it's going to cause your hair a lot of damage, and they don't want to put you through that. They don't want to put themselves through that. And they basically just want to make sure that your hair is staying in your head. So what most hairstylists will say is to people with dark hair, that's fine, I can do that, but it's not going to be done by tomorrow. And they'll come up with a hair plan for you, or a hair system for you, so that one, your hair is staying as healthy as possible, even though you're doing several sessions of bleach. But it's getting down to the point of, well, we're going to do one session now, we'll see how far we go, and then we'll schedule you in for another session of bleaching and seeing how far your hair lightens, and then we'll kind of continue from there until we reach the color that you are interested in. So don't think that you're getting platinum blonde hair or gray hair tomorrow. It's not going to happen. And, don't fear, because pastels, I don't think, are in that in that kind of planning. Pastels luckily have color to them, so you can get to a decently light color within, your first pass of bleaching, and still be able to have like a really nice pastel color that you can walk around with. And if you're interested in some hair inspiration, there's a great little shop in Upland, California, who I actually follow on Instagram. Their name is Little Shop of Hairdos. So it's a little bit of a shout out to the Little Shop of Horrors musical and movie. But they post amazing kind of punk rock goth inspired colored hair. They also do like regular haircuts and things like that. So if you're lucky enough to be in the area, which unfortunately I am not, if you're fortunate enough to be in the area, I would definitely recommend checking them out. They're always doing some really amazing hair creations, oranges, purples, like you name it, they do it. Split dyes, rainbow hair, holographic hair. So if you are interested in, either living vicariously through them, or are interested in getting some ideas for possible new hairdos in the future, again, their Instagram is Little Shop of Hairdos, so definitely go check them out. Another really interesting kind of Instagram blog that I had found was, the Instagram handle is Hair Colorido. It's HAIRCOLORIDO. And basically it's just one of those blogs that kind of compiles, things on different topics. This one in particular documents, or pulls together a lot of different Instagram accounts, that are either devoted to multicolored or, quote unquote, fun hair. And one of the things that I really like about Instagram is that you can type in anything. You can type in blue hair and it'll give you millions of posts on, people who have blue hair. And you can find someone who has like a similar skin tone to you, or you can find someone whose, style you think is really interesting, and then apply that to your own aesthetic and your own style. And like I've said before, beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. It's up for interpretation. And I like to think of beauty as another kind of outlet for art. And so for me, art is multifaceted. It's a way to express yourself, in different situations. And it's just another way to express yourself. And I know for me, having fun colored hair it didn't feel out of the ordinary for me. It kind of felt like it felt like a natural hair color for me. Until you're walking into a diner and, 20 people are staring at you. And for me, that would happen to me a lot in, quote unquote normal situations. Going grocery shopping, going to the store, anything. And, you get a lot of people who stare at you because they're not used to seeing people with bright green hair or bright blue hair. So I would always turn to my boyfriend and say to him, what are they staring at? I don't understand. Like, people keep looking at me. And point blank, he always has to say, like, you have blue hair or you have green hair. People aren't used to it. And so it's kind of one of the fun things about having fun colored hair, other than the obvious of you have fun colored hair. So I'm going to take another quick break. And when I come back, we're going to be talking about some abnormal hair. And what I mean by that is wigs. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Becky, as always, and in our first segment, we talked a little bit about doing your hair at home. In our second segment, we talked about going to a stylist to do your hair, which, of course, I recommend. And now I thought I would talk a little bit about another option of how to get fun-colored hair in your life, and that is wigs. Wigs can be a great way to change up your look, change up your style, without the permanence of hair dye or bleach. And like I said, I'm in a position where I can't dye my hair a fun color, so wigs is a great way for me to kind of change things up when I'm thinking I'd like to do something different. So if you're looking to buy a wig, which is the easiest option, I will warn you, wigs can be very expensive, and you don't want to buy a wig that's too cheap, because then you'll be able to clock it, from a mile away of like, oh, that's a wig. There's also a lot of beauty supply stores that will sell wigs, so you can at least try them on. I know for me, I apparently have a big head, so a lot of those wigs don't necessarily fit me. I have to stretch them out. I have to do some DIY to them. But at least, when you're in an environment like a beauty shop, there's definitely resources of people who will help you, and you can try them on for a fee. And it can also be kind of a fun day trip that you can take with your friends. Go try on wigs, try on fun colors, try on different styles. It's an impermanent way of trying something that you could do permanently. The one thing I will recommend is, if you are considering buying a wig, find a wig that has either a lace front or bangs. This being because, if you have a lace front, it's gonna give the illusion that the hair is growing from your head. They're tiny strands that are weaved into a piece of lace, basically. And this will help, create the illusion that the hair is yours rather than something that you bought. The other element that I recommend is, finding something with a lace front, but also finding something with a hairline part. There are, some cheaper wigs that you can buy that don't have a part, which for me is a little harder to style, but it does have the lace front. So you can, take some low settings, hot tools to them, and just kind of figure it out as you go. It's a great starter wig, I found. Throw a beanie on top of it, no one will know. And then one of the other things that you can do, which is a little more difficult than just buying a wig, is making a wig. And it's definitely the most difficult, and it's something that you really have to kind of practice with. This is definitely one of the most difficult ways of introducing fun colored hair to your life. It is a time commitment, and it's slightly more expensive than just buying like a wig off of Amazon. But one of the things that I personally had a problem with in some of these beauty supply stores was none of the wigs really fit me. And even if I did find one that did fit me, it didn't have a part or it wasn't the right color. So I would have to do some DIY anyway. And for me, I want to make sure that my wigs look as natural as possible with fun colored hair. So one of the things that I've been trying to get better at is making wigs. I've actually made one in green, which I used for Halloween, which was really fun. Brought me back to my green hair days, for a little while. And then, I can kind of put it back on the shelf and come back to boring reality. A lot of the times, really well-made wigs can be really expensive, especially if you're getting like a human hair wig, which personally I prefer. I think they look more natural and I like the texture of them better. So they can get really expensive, like somewhere between, $2,000 and $5,000. And one of the things about making your own wigs is you can get, blonde hair from your beauty supply store in reams, and then you can either sew them or hot glue them yourselves. There are so many resources on YouTube where you can find people who make wigs for a living, and sew them or hot glue them online on YouTube. There's hundreds of them. They're a great resource. There's a lot of people on there who go into great detail about how to do it. And that's what I did when I made my wig. And one, if you are a DIY person like I am, it's a fun kind of time to yourself. You can put on a TV show and just kind of work on it. It's, it's a different kind of craft, I guess you could say. But it's definitely something interesting and new that you can do. And then the end result is something really fun that you can wear out. So if wigs are something that you think that you might be interested in, I have a couple of recommendations for things like starter wigs, Rockstar wigs, and Arda wigs. It's ARDA wigs. They have some really great selections. They have synthetic, they have lace fronts, and they've just got a really great selection that you can choose from. Especially, I know I've been on the Rockstar Wigs site a couple of times, and they have some amazing colors and some great styles. And then the last two recommendations that I can give you of accounts that I've seen online are Wigs by Grace and Wigs by Vanity. I know for a fact that Wigs by Grace kind of specializes in wigs for drag queens. So if you have a slightly larger head like myself, this might be a great choice for you. They are a little more on the expensive side, but you're going to get a very good quality wig. And they can also style it for you in any way that you see fit. I know a lot of drag queens have really high hair, so you can definitely go for that look if you're interested. But yeah, definitely go check out those resources. So before I wrap up this week's episode of the Beauty Tips podcast, I just wanted to reiterate by saying that, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like I said, beauty is up for interpretation. So if you feel like you are not the, quote unquote normal standard of beauty, that's fine. And, embrace it and love it. Letting society dictate how we perceive beauty or how we should perceive beauty is just, it just shouldn't be a thing anymore, basically. And beauty can be anything that makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel confident. And just remember those elements when you're getting ready for the day. Go out with no makeup, go out with a full face of makeup, go out with crazy nighttime looks in the daytime, go out with pink hair, go out with brown hair, go out with blonde hair, go out with blue hair. It's just anything that makes you feel comfortable in your own skin, because that's, kind of what it's all about. That's what beauty and that's what all of these things that we're talking about here is all about. Honestly, the most important thing is to be able to look in the mirror and not think negatively about yourself. To be able to look in the mirror and say, I like this person, both inside and out. And that can be hard. Even for me, I struggle with that, a lot. And there are days where I'm like, wow, I'm hot. And, I own that and I embrace that. And then there are other days where I just, don't feel as great. And both of those emotions are okay and great. But it's taking the little steps, like loving who you are, embracing the things that you like, whether that be, blue hair or no makeup or just mascara today. It's taking these little things and internalizing the things that make you happy and kind of deflecting the negative things in your life that aren't going to make you happy. Because I think as people, we are all just trying to be a little happier in our lives, and keeping all of these things in mind. There's no right way for beauty. There's a wrong way for beauty. We're just all trying to figure it out, and that's super fun too. So I hope that you enjoyed today's Beauty Tips podcast from an alternative perspective. Of course, as always, I'm your host, Becky. And, first of all, thank you for checking out the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast hosted by the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find us on social media. On Facebook, it's Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast. And we're also on Twitter, which is GSMC_beauty. We post a lot of interesting links. We post some fun beauty tips, things that you can, think about in your daily lives, meditation, you name it, we're posting about it in terms of the beauty world. And then lastly, I would just recommend, if you haven't already, please rate, review, and subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. Let me know how I'm doing. And if there's any content that you're interested in hearing about on here. Of course, my name is Becky. And this has been the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast. I will see you next time. Bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network, from health and wellness to entertainment and life and happiness to sex and relationships. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast.